Sudha Murthy ji. And to Ms. A. Benashu, who is the translator of all these 10 titles, and she has been really helping us a lot in other interpretation work. We have a book by Miss Valerie Goddard on livre, and there is a kind of a ceremonial launch for a photo opportunity before we start. It's I would request Miss Valerie Goddard to kindly hand over the books to the guests so that it can be launched.
We can talk to the chairman, because the chief guest, he can release it. Come, please.
French and English.
Please come.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would start off immediately with Ms. Gary Benashu. She has translated these 10 books. It was assigned, in fact, in January 2020 for the event that was to happen in March 2020, and then, of course, after COVID, the event got postponed. But she has started all 10 books, and it will be a treat for us when she shares her experiences of translating these Indian books into French.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vikram. I want to start by thanking the National Book Trust and also the Embassy of India for giving me the opportunity to translate these books. I'm extremely grateful, not only because it's a treat for a translator to translate such works, targeting young readers, but also because I myself am here in front of you today because of translations of Indian books many years ago. This is how I discovered India myself. When I was 18 or 19, I would say, through translations of Indian novels into French. They completely the boundaries of my own universe, and it shaped my life. It shaped all my projects until today. So you can say my life would be completely different without Indian literature and without French efforts of translation. That's why I'm so honored to be part of such projects today. I mentioned that I was 18 or 19 when I first discovered India through books. And the reason is I was never exposed to India before, be it in school, be it through books I read, and I was a very avid reader. India was not there in my landscape at all. So, would it be possible for younger children to discover India through books today? We have an example of such projects on the weekend today, but they are not sufficiently represented yet. So, I wanted to underline the importance of the MVP's efforts, and now I will talk a little bit more about my experience as a translator of these books. As you can see, there are different types of books targeting different age groups, from very small kids with mostly images to books targeting teenagers, like the translation of Tagore's work. So, as you know, translation is always about negotiating the space between more or less distant shores. Some of you might be Hindi speakers, and movement, like in French, tradition expresses movement, like the word translation does, but there are other words which express the space between languages and the space between forms and shapes. That is very interesting because as a translator, this is what you have to do. Negotiate the space and make it as narrow and clear as possible. But for children, you have one more challenge. They don't even know what shore you're talking about. It's not present in the universe yet. And when you're talking about France and India, obviously you are talking about different landscapes, different habits. Day-to-day life might be very different even today. So when you're a translator of this kind of work, you have to take that into account. You have to accompany this mind travel for kids and also accept that some things might not be understood by them directly at the time of reading. And this is where I want to underline the importance of illustrations in children's books and also salute the work of Sudasa Ravasu, who is with us today, because he's an example of the amazing work that can be done through translation. When you're translating for kids, actually the illustrator is doing most of the work for you because he creates the fixed universe that will remain intact when traveling to another shore. And this is also the visual universe which kids will connect first to. This is extremely important. In terms of the words themselves, sometimes it's rather easy when you're talking about things that exist in those universes. We have a story about cows. We have a story about a flower and a bee. Those are universal themes. But even if you have universal themes, as a translator, you're only able to suggest, for instance, how important cows are in Indian and especially in Hindu culture. This is something you can suggest, but then you have to continue the exploration. Sometimes translation process is rather tricky. We have a book originally entitled Tale of Tales, which I translated into Le Serpent et la Mangouste. So the title has nothing to do with the original because that will not translate. Actually, it might be of disservice to the book to try and translate it because the word que, the equivalent of tail in English, will be understood in different contexts. Obviously, the kids might not be able to sense all these different meanings, but when you're writing or translating for kids, you also have to remember that the parents will be accompanying them through the reading. So actually, you're not only writing for the kids, you're also in this accompanying relationship with the parents. In this project, this translation of 10 books, the meat was also about bringing forward important figures of the Indian nation, like obviously the Mahatma Gandhi. This is a figure that most of French kids will have at least heard about, but they will probably not understand the importance of Gandhi's work is Tagore. As I mentioned, there's one book by him. Here it's a short novel for teenagers with very acute emotional analysis. It's very sensitive, very delicate. It's almost impressionist because it all revolves around the feelings of this teenager who is sent away from his family. So he's been grief, abandonment, longing for motherly love. He's longing for the childhood, feeling of safety and lightness. And for me, it was also a glimpse of Bengali literature in a nutshell, because these qualities of emotional analysis are very present in Bengali literature. So the challenge in this one was trying to capture the kind of sweet irony that Tagore has towards his character. And this is a bit tricky because in some ways this book is quite cruel. This kid is sent away and he has to fall terribly sick before he's allowed to see his mother again. And he had been told he could see her only during vacations. So when he finally sees her through his fever, his first words are, "Oh, so it's vacation time, finally." You understand the cruelty of this story and the tenderness as well. And it clearly reminds me of European tales, which have a tendency to teach children in quite a cruel way. I finally wanted to mention the book about the Kumbh Mela, because I would say this one was the most challenging to translate because of the so many Hindu concepts that are brought forward. Luckily enough, this book is written in a didactic way, sorry. It's like a walk through the Kumbh Mela, through the eyes of kids. So this is the right perspective which you can keep as a translator, because you can keep this perspective in order to explain, but then you have to bring forward concepts like sadhu, has, mela, etc. And obviously, the French young readers have no clue what you're talking about. So you can do some work with the footnotes, explaining, trying not to elaborate too much, but you also have to accept that you're providing a first kind of map, and then the readers will continue to explore. This brings me to my conclusion. When I translate such books, I cannot consider this as an isolated task. Obviously, I'm focusing on the space I have in the books, that many pages, that many words I must try and stick to. But I know that I'm only bringing forward few elements which themselves are calling for an entire continent, an entire universe to be explored. Like one drop in the ocean that can be fruitful if these books are read, or if they create a movement for more translation of children's books. I clearly think that we need more representation of Indian children's books in the French market, so that we can help readers, young or less young
when your own work is translated into your mother tongue, then what happens? How do you do that?
Good morning to everyone. I studied in the Kerala Union up to the age of 16. I was not able to write one paragraph of English when I was 16. Then my mother told me, language is a vehicle if you work hard. So then I started English, but later I did my engineering, so there was no scope so much to do in English literature. And later I started on my own. At the age of 50, I started writing in English. I have two methods of writing. One is if it is a novel where I express my emotion, I write in my own mother tongue. Then if it is a common for the paper, a children's story, or young adults literature, I write in English. So I have two separate way of writing. I translate all my books from English to Kannada to English. I don't give it to anybody because, like how Madam told, in translation we lose something, and at least one language I want to hold it. That's my mother.
So, of course, there are challenges in translating these books for children and young adults. But do you think that if we are able to overcome these challenges by supplementing them with images in children's literature?
It is possible, it's not impossible, but you should always remember, the original has 100 marks. Translation, the best translation will be between 90 to 90. That 8% or 10% you should allow. Because my books are in 13 languages. Two languages or three languages I can easily manage. Marathi, Kannada and English. But in other language, Assamese, Bengali, I really do not know what the correct word for that particular problem. That is Sanskrit, there is a beautiful word in Shakuntala. Shakuntala, Ravanya, Pasha. If not, in any language other than Sanskrit, they say, this is the beauty of Shakuntala. It is not that. It is Shakuntala, Ravanya, Pasha, the particular word. So, these particular words are so difficult to bring into another language, so that 7 to 8% you have to have. I supplement it like how Madam told, the anyway, children, I said, okay, whenever you have such tricky situation, put a picture. Make a sketch. The moment you make a sketch, the sketches are explainable. So I reduce that and make it more correlated to that area. For example, in Bengal, eating fish is very common. In Karnataka, eating fish is not common. So I say, okay, that small changes you make because you can relate to that area.
Thanks a lot. I will get back to Ms. Rani Gaurav, and she traces her ancestry from India, from Pondicherry, and I think she's one of the fittest persons to be here to share her experiences about the cultural communication through translations, and especially among kids.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the National Book Trust and Indian Embassy, who are really friends for me, and it was so helpful. So perhaps I try to begin in... Do you hear me, or there is an echo? It's okay? It's okay. I try to begin in English, and if it's hard for me, I will be helped. So, in fact, yes, my ancestor was an Indian... Yeah, I'm sorry, it's difficult for you, no? The echo? Okay, sorry. My ancestor was an Indian lady from South India, Pondicherry and Madurai. And my other ancestor was French, and they had 60 children and lived 200 years in India. So I've got Indian shining in me, I don't know how to say. And when I am in France and I talk about India, a lot of people, they don't really know India. And children, they don't know India at all. And they just talk about, you know, the movie City of Joy, and that's all. Calcutta, City of Joy, point. And I was so sad to see that, because there is so many things in India. It's this incredible India, the link to nature, the link to harmony, the joy, and this great patrimonial architecture. And I love these Ellora caves because it's beautiful, because it's a symbol of peace. And that's why one day I decided to create this, I don't know how to say, Harry Potter, French Indian Harry Potter. And it's the history of a nice Indian lady who is coming back to Paris 200 years ago and began the government of a little French guy who is not really nice. And then magical things begins at the beginning, and they go in the worlds of ancient nature and the four elements. And I try to put some things about India in order that French children begins to learn. So I was so happy in the French edition to have more than 1,000 children who read this and said, oh, now I know where Bombay is, or Mumbai, Pondicherry, I love Ganesh. It's little things, but what I wanted is to create curiosity and the need to travel and discover. That's what the French edition. And after that, a lot of Indian people or Indian children said, is there an English version? You know, I'm alone, I don't have editor, so I do it like an entrepreneur. So I don't know, perhaps Lord Ganesh was with me, but a great Indian translator, Amruta, came from Mumbai and said, I would like to help you to translate it. So today is the launch of the part 1 of Elora in English. All the books will be ready in September, but I begin to do it, so you've got the beginning of the story now here, and she helped me a lot because, of course, I love India, I read a lot, etc., but she helped me about cultural habits, food habits, because I had made some little mistakes, so it's very interesting to work together, Indian and French, and try to create bridge.
So do you translate? Do you translate? This book has been translated by you only, from French to English?
Yes, it's with an Indian translator who is called Amruta, and she's translated with me. And after that, I have made it read by English, American, or Indian people, and hope everything is okay.
So who is your audience? You are looking for an audience in France or in India for this book?
In fact, in France, so a lot of children, you know, it was, comment on dit bouche à oreille? Mouth to hear a lot. So 1,000 children or grandmother, a lot of grandmothers read these books, but I would love to have it in India too, because some Indian children said they were very proud to have an Indian heroine. We all love Harry Potter, but it's better to have an Indian Harry Potter and a woman one. So if there is an audience in India, I would be so grateful. But I need to be helped.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Sudhasato Basu, 2 of your books are in this list of 10, which have been translated into French. One is Ravan Remedy, and then Vasu meets, what is that? What full name?
Vasu meets the tadpole.
Tadpole. So I was just wondering, since you have illustrated these books, you are given a script, an original script, maybe in English or Hindi, and then you illustrate. And when that book gets translated into any other Indian language, or for that matter, even French, does it anyway impact your original interpretation of this script as you were, as you illustrated?
Thank you very much. Will you please allow me to 1 minute to explain what I understand about the language and my understanding about the language and how I look at the entire, if quote unquote, problem. Okay. Now, see, there are 2 senses we use to communicate. One is our vision, another is our auditory sense. Okay. And when these 2 are not in function, then we'll probably use the touch sense. Braille is one of that. Now, sound is auditory, and picture or visual is vision. Now, I work in this area when the vision, I communicate through vision, okay? Now, when it's script is actually an amalgamation of these two senses. Say, when it is A-N-T, three visual symbols, side by side, it creates a sound that we understand through our auditory senses, okay? For an illustrator or for a painter, this auditory sense is not at all in use, okay? And that's why the visual communication needs no translation. So I am very much safe in that area. Now, when I'm provided a script written by somebody else, then obviously what I do and what I understand what every illustrator must do and should do, they should not go for a visual translation. That is something a lot of people ask or expect, a visual translation. No, being faithful to script is one thing. Rather, a visual translation, an illustrator, what an illustrator does is, it reinterprets the script, when at the same time remaining faithful to the script. There's a way we work when a script is provided to us. Now, when I write my own book or whatever, create my own book, I don't start with words. I start with imageries. Pages after pages of imageries flood my mind, and I place them together, and I say where I need words to accentuate the communication part of it. If there is any communication gap is there, if there is any word is needed, then I put those 2 or 3 lines. Otherwise, my communication, entire communication, is through visuals. So that's why this Ravan Remedy, you'll find only 2 speech blurbs and 1 line. These things actually, the words and lines come after visual is decided.
Okay. Like we were discussing it yesterday, and I would like to problematize is, like, we have this book called Rupa the Elephant, and we got it translated into Arabic for our event at Abu Dhabi International Book Fair. And there, the feedback that we got, one of the parents said that it looks to be a good book, but the problem is that there are no elephants in UAE. So how to communicate this story to children, to our children, is a challenge in itself. So from that perspective, even images get lost when the text gets translated.
Sorry, I couldn't get it.
So in that sense, even the appeal that images, the universal appeal of images get lost when the text gets translated to something other language.
So this is the what I'd say, the limitation of words, and it's bound to happen because in a picture book or whatever illustrated book, there are 2 communication way run side by side. One is visual, which remains intact, which doesn't need any translation. And when you change the words into different language, different way of communication, then there could be a mismatch. So that's why I think whoever is translating in words has to be a bit careful about it. And she might have faced the same problem while translating Tales of Tales, that book.
Yeah. Thank you. I come to the Director of National Book Trust, Shri Yuvraj Malik, who is the Director of National Book Trust and so is also the publisher of National Book Trust. And National Book Trust publishes books in more than 50 Indian languages, which includes major languages, tribal languages, even the local languages. So, sir, would you like to enlighten the audience about how we, meet the challenges of cultural communication when we are through our various activities, through workshops, or through the brainstorming that we do, and other related issues?
Yeah, surely. Thank you so much. As all my colleagues brought out one important thing, I'll add on to your point, Vikramji. You said we are a publisher. Of course, that is one of the assignment that NBT is doing as a publisher, but largely it's the knowledge partner of the country that we look up to a role where we not only publish, but we'll also create the content. And the content is through various mechanisms, which also include primarily for children's segment, the translation work. So when we talk about translation, we understand the linguistic aspect of it. And if you see, we have 22 languages in our schedule of the Constitution. We have more than 1,000 languages all over the country in dialects in different formats. This is our strength. I say it very different perspective because if you see holistically, when there is a language, there is a culture attached to it. Where you find a culture, there is a language reversibly attached to it. So these are two sides of the coin which cannot be separated. So when you take one language into another language through translation, actually you are taking one culture into the other culture. And this is how you are doing a socio-economic, cultural, all kind of integration and creating a society which is knowledge-based, the content-based. The another aspect which I want to bring out in this process is that journey of a book is not a mechanical process. I personally feel for an author, writer, script writer, the illustrator, the graphic designer, the printer, even the man who packages, it's a journey of emotions. And journey of emotions definitely come out from the cultural impact on that person. Same person who is doing illustrations has a very strong cultural impact for a particular region that will be reflected into it. Similarly, the emotional attachment of the mechanical part of the book will also get into it. So idea about entire processes, when we are doing translation, we have to be very careful what impression we are going to give through the selection of words, one. Two, how we are going to support that impression in the mind of the child through the graphics, through the illustrations. And that cumulative impact, because we say it, one picture is better than 1,000 words. So instead of writing 1,000 words, let's put a pic that can explain all the emotions of that age, that particular social system, that culture. So all 4 or 5 dots connecting. NBT is publishing from one language into other, which in India doing. Now we are also publishing almost all UN languages also. So it's not a national book trust. I'll say we are a national book trust, but with a very big international mandate to take content from one segment of the country to the another segment. Another aspect is, if you see the Indian philosophy, it speaks about global family concept, Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. So when we talk about global family, we talk about global citizens. So when we talk about global citizens, we do talk about global skills. When we talk about global skills, we do talk about global values. And this is how these are values. This is just not a book on Kumbh. Kumbh is an integral part of our Indian value system. It's part of our religion, it's part of our knowledge system, it's part of our culture. So effectively with these 10, 15 pages, we are taking our cultural message to across the world in the language they understand. So that is the power of language and translation. Talking about children as such, well, what we do, if you must be aware, there's a very visionary program which NBT is doing, Ek Bharat, Shresth Bharat, under which is called One India, Superb India. So when we say one India, does not mean bring in uniformity. No, celebrate unity in diversity. The pluralistic version, the multilingual version, that's what we want to celebrate in One India, not a singular concept of it. So in that format, we have integrated different states, one southern state with one north state, north, east and west. So this pairing of states help to know one part of the society, to know the other part of the society, and that's how we have integrated. As you bring out about the elephant, and of course, it's very important what you put on paper and pen and how you bring out the emotions through illustrations. It is more important to understand that this is the age when we are producing these books, we are shaping the mind of the young generation. What kind of content we feed will have a direct, long-lasting impact on his emotional bonding. Because we keep working on intelligence quotient, but what about the emotional quotient? That's what the job of an illustrator, as Mr. Basu has told, on what senses he work. Ma'am has brought that I can understand 3 languages. I can bring out 3 language content in the right format I want to bring out, but it may be lost in some other languages. As she brought, it's very difficult to understand the other country and bring out the right set of words. So keeping all this, I feel producing children books is the most sensitive job, most challenging job, and most satisfying job. Because we have to be very calibrated. We can take liberties in adult content for oldest people because they understand various nuances. But for a young child, we have to be very, very careful, and that's what the credibility of institution, the word is trust. Trust means credibility, and we as a national body, on behalf of the government of India, as India, we're very proud of the credibility on the content we produce and take all over the world. That's what my opinion is. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Before we come to the summing of the chairman, we have 5-7 minutes. And with the permission of the chair, we can request 1 or 2 questions from the distinguished authors who are here.
I have one question for Mrs. Murthy, because the same thing also has been reiterated by the director. When we say that 8%, 10% things are lost in translation, are we being really a bit unfair to the translators? I myself as a creative writer, I have also translated a lot. Before I come to you, because you have quoted a Shakuntala from Hindu mythology, may I quote another from Hindu mythology. The role of translator is the role of a Jashoda. Sometimes Jashoda was more successful than Devaki. Your take on this?
Thank you. Krishna is son of Yashoda as well as Devaki. You told about Yashoda, right? But always he is Devaki Putra. Okay? So original person knows every word what the person writes. However, translation, you cannot rule out. If there are no book, in my young days, I came to Paris 50 years back. That time I read Simone de Beauvoir's book and Jean-Paul Sartre, and also Little Prince. See, these books, even though they were originally in French, they were translated in English. Maybe some percentage must have lost. But I could enjoy the idea of someone so bright, so different in thinking, thanks to translators. You may not get 100, but at least I got 92. I always believe translation is a must in today's global scenario, because, like Friedman says, the world is flat. Globalization has become so common. So we may not be able to get the 100% in, or you call in Sanskrit ras, or the finest feeling in that. But at least I'm able to get, by and large, majority of that. If there is no translation, assuming that, it cannot be perfect, then we'll be alien to another culture. Reading Jean-Paul Sartre actually gave me a lot more about getting into French way of society or French way of thinking. So every book takes, like what Yuraj said, takes her to the different culture, even though something is lost. Again, it depends on who. For example, if you have very good translators, see, I have seen in my case, my knowledge is limited to my books. I have seen, if I know my translator culturally well, and she or he gets along very well with me, and both of us have some common thing, the quality of translation is always better. For example, Maharashtrian translators for me, they work out much better than Assamese, because I have nothing to do with Assamese language, or I have never lived in Assam. Whereas Gujarati translators for me are much better than Urdu translators in Kashmir, because I have never gone to Kashmir more than 3 or 4 times. So it also, in my case, it has worked well. If I know my translators, then we do discuss about the book. Where are the crux? Where are the difficulties? Where are the bottlenecks? And how to make it as much as possible in their language. I always hold a meeting, many meetings, for every book translation. It is not that I give the book and I forget it. No. I will call them, let us have a discussion, and then we will work out which are difficult phases and how they can make it lighter. But I strongly believe translation should be there, because it will teach and guide us a different knowledge, different culture, and by that we can converse with other people. Otherwise, if I know only Kannada, I cannot talk to any other language. If I know only English, then I cannot talk to my own people. So it is better to know as many languages as possible. Youngsters, I want to tell you, better to know as many languages as possible if you could read, and that will be a great help to understand the culture. This is my experience, my answer.
Thank you, thank you. I would now now request our chairperson, Professor Govind Prasad Sharma, for his summing up and for his inputs. Thank you, sir.
नहीं, इतना सब कुछ सुनने के बाद कुछ कहना है, कुछ बचा है, ऐसा मुझे लगता तो नहीं है। पर दो बातें मैं कहना चाहूँगा। मुझे व्यक्तिगत रूप से क्या लगता है कि पुस्तक लिखना तो आसान है, लेकिन पुस्तक का अनुवाद लिखने से बहुत अधिक कठिन है। उसका कारण है, आप जिस परिवेश में रहते हैं उसको अच्छी तरीके से जानते हैं और उस दृष्टि से आप पुस्तक का लेखन करते हैं। लेकिन जो अनुवादक है वो उन्हीं परिवेश को उस तरीके से समझे जैसे आपने समझा है और उस तरीके से वो व्यक्त करें जैसा आपने व्यक्त किया है। मुझे लगता है ये संभव नहीं है। ये संभव केवल उन लोगों के लिए है जो कि उसी परिवेश में रहते हों। लेकिन जब परिवेश बदल जाता है तो सोचने का और कल्चर को समझने का और उनके जो पुराण हैं, उनका जो अंदर का मर्म है उसको समझने का बड़ा मुश्किल पड़ता है। जैसे मैं आपको बताऊं, कुछ शब्द हैं जिनका अनुवाद हो नहीं पाएंगे। उदाहरण के लिए कल मैंने कल्प वृक्ष का नाम लिया था। अब आप इसको अनुवाद कीजिए तो कल्प वृक्ष का जो अपने यहाँ कंसेप्ट है, अपने यहाँ जो धारणा है, ऐसी ही सांस्कृतिक और धार्मिक धारणा दूसरे अनुवाद के अंदर उसी रूप में आ जाए, मुझे लगता है बड़ा कठिन है। इसलिए मैं एक सुझाव तो देना चाहूँगा, बच्चों के लिए अनुवाद हो या बड़ों को, ऐसे कुछ जो शब्द हैं उसका अनुवाद आप कुछ भी लिख दीजिए, उसी शब्दों को लिखिए, लेकिन नीचे टिप्पणी में उसका पौराणिक अर्थ क्या है और वास्तव में समाज किस रूप में लेता है, उसका थोड़ा 3-4 लाइन में यदि एक्सप्लेन कर दिया जाए तो वो बहुत अच्छा रहेगा। ऐसे कई शब्द हैं, एक उदाहरण मैंने दिया, लेकिन हाँ, मैं फिर आपको कहूँगा कि अनुवाद वो कर सकता है जो अनुवादक की संस्कृति, उसका परिवेश और उसके भावनाओं को समझे, जो कि सचमुच में कठिन है। इसलिए मेरा कहना, लेकिन एक महत्व की बात जरूर है, आज के विश्व को समझने के लिए अब ऐसा तो नहीं है कि सब भाषाओं को हम समझ जाएंगे। अनुवाद इसमें सहायक है कि विश्व के जो विभिन्न देशों के परिवेश हैं, संस्कृति है, सामाजिक रचना है, विचार है, जीवन है, मूल्य है, उनको अनुवाद के द्वारा किसी न किसी स्तर तक, किसी न किसी रूप तक हम समझ पाते हैं। तो अनिवार्य की आवश्यकता है और अनुवादक के लिए ज़रूरी है कि वो उस परिवेश को पूरी तरीके से समझ ले जिस परिवेश के अंदर वो पुस्तक लिखी गई है। विद्वानों ने जो कि सचमुच इस कार्य में लगे हुए हैं, अपने अपने अनुभव हमारे साथ शेयर किए हैं। मैं हम सब के प्रति आभार व्यक्त करूंगा और धन्यवाद व्यक्त करूंगा। धन्यवाद।
Thank you. For a quick French interpretation, I would request.
Donc je vais résumer rapidement en français ce qui a été dit par le président du National Book Trust. Donc, en entendant ces histoires et ces expériences de traduction, je pense à la difficulté de ce travail de traduction, de cette translation d'un environnement à l'autre, de la difficulté d'exprimer dans d'autres contextes, d'autres environnements, les mêmes idées. Et ma première impression, c'est que c'est presque impossible, que ce n'est possible que pour les personnes qui connaissent bien cet environnement et cette culture. Il y a certains mots qui n'ont pas de traduction. Je pensais hier à l'exemple du mot kalpvraksh, qui n'a aucun équivalent en anglais ni en français d'ailleurs, où je pensais aussi à d'autres mots qui sont tellement liés à la société qu'ils expriment qu'ils se vident de sens dans le processus de traduction. Je pense aussi à toutes les émotions qui doivent également être comprises par le traducteur. Il faut qu'il puisse s'y relier dans son propre univers pour pouvoir les traduire. Donc, au-delà des mots, il s'agit aussi de traduire l'environnement, les idées, les émotions qui vont bien au-delà des mots seuls. Merci beaucoup à tous.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. So it is time to end the session with the permission of the chair. I would like to thank all our distinguished panelists for being with us, and to the chairperson, and also to the August gathering, the audience who participated and who listened very attentively to the discussions here. Thank you. Ajay.
C'est pas inintéressant cela. C'est un peu cliché. Séduction, j'ai déjà entendu ça 650. Oui, c'est perdu. Des choses, on perd pas mal. Il y a des mots qui sont introduisibles. Là, t'es là, no shit. Il est où, machin, truc, c'est peut-être pas Gupta qui décide, c'est peut-être l'autre, parce que l'autre, je lui ai dit où elle s'assoit sur où ma collègue s'assoit là, où elle le fait pas. Il m'a regardé comme ça, donc je pense qu'il a un peu peur maintenant. Donc, très bien. Donc, tant mieux.
Before we begin this session, I would request Mr. Amit to kindly honor our distinguished guest with a token of gift. I call Mr. Daniel Nigas to kindly receive the gift. Next, may I request Mr. Amit to honor Mr. Chamu Shastri. And I also request to kindly honor Mr. Sudip Nagarkar. So the floor is all yours. Kindly, you may begin your session. Thank you.
Good morning and namaste to everyone. Before I commence this session, let me tell everyone that it's an honor to share the stage with such prolific personalities. Today we discuss how diversified and rich India is when it comes to language and culture. If language is a treasure, then I'm sure that India would be the headquarters of these treasure houses. And let me tell you what is the beauty of India. It's not that we have various languages, but then after every 50 kilometers, the accent of these languages will change and have its local touch that will add colors to it. So let me just open up and ask these personalities what are their views on this multilingualism that adds the colors to India and its religion.
As far as we are concerned, language is not just a language. Language is a जीवन दर्शन है. और भाषाएं अनेक हैं, लेकिन भाव एक है. यहाँ टाइटल दिया गया many languages, one literature. But I would like it to be, there are many literatures, but bhav ek hai as far as Bharat is concerned. in the context of Bharat. व्यवस्थाएं अनेक है, लेकिन हेतु एक है. रूप अनेक है, लेकिन ईश्वर एक है. तो इसी प्रकार भाषाएं अनेक है, उन भाषाओं के दर्शन भी अनेक है, लेकिन गंतव्य एक है. उसी प्रकार अनेक भाषाओं के माध्यम से और अनेक साहित्य सामग्री के माध्यम से एक ही भाव. इसी प्रकार संस्कृति एक है, संस्कृति का अभिव्यक्ति अनेक है. सो इट इज नॉट मल्टीकल्चरल. कल्चर एक है, उसका एक्सप्रेशन अनेक है. डाइवर्सिटी का हम बात करते हैं, लेकिन अनेकता में एकता, यूनिटी इन डाइवर्सिटी. डाइवर्सिटी विदाउट यूनिटी विल एंड अप इन chaos. So इसलिए our focus should be not diversity alone, but unity in diversity. That is more important. So don't focus only on diversity. Don't celebrate diversity, but celebrate unity in diversity. That is more important. That will bring people together. That will take people together. That will alone, unity in diversity. Diversity alone will divide the people. Only diversity, if you think of, it will divide the people. So languages, literature, all of them, no, multilingualism. India was never a monolingual country. It was always a multilingual country. But that multilingualism had that unity. That is the factor for the peace, factor for the all inclusiveness, inclusive culture. So these are the contributory factors for Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam.
Wonderful. And like sir was mentioning, that it's always about unity in diversity. And I want to ask you, sir, you have been a pioneer in promoting Sanskrit language for all these years. And I'm quite sure that you must have faced a lot of challenges in doing that. So what were the challenges and what were the things that you did to overcome them? Because what I believe is Sanskrit has always been very close to our culture, and the vibrations of the language, the sound of the language has always given that positive impact. But what are the things that you have faced and what are the challenges that you have seen?
People have different wrong notions about languages. People think that each language is different. No. Difference is only a few, certain percent, that is all. Because Varnamala sabhi ka ek hi hai, swar ek hi hai, Shabdavali, more than 50% of vocabulary of all Indian languages, common or common roots, tatsam or tadbhav shabda, ध्वनि व्यवस्था समान है, वाक्य व्यवस्था समान है of all Indian languages, underlying grammar of all Indian languages is same, sentence pattern is same, sound system is same. So for a person who knows one Indian language, learning another Indian language is not like learning a new language. It is already there. So learning more Indian languages is not a difficulty. And Sanskrit language in particular, it coexisted and complemented all Indian languages for times immemorial. So as far as Sanskrit is concerned, only thing is for last 200 years, it has been, गलत प्रचार किया गया संस्कृत के बारे में. इस कारण से कुछ धारणाएं हैं, उसका बदल करने का प्रयास हो रहा है. वो बहुत महत्वपूर्ण बड़ा विषय नहीं है. अब मुख्य विषय है भारतीय भाषा से. देयर आर पीपल who fight for one language, fighting for Kannada, fighting for Tamil, fighting for Hindi. But today, we need to have people who fight for Bharatiya Bhashas, Indian languages. So, if we talk of Bharatiya Bhasha, then it will bring people together. Make Ek Bharat Shrestha Bharat. That is how new national education policy 2020, that also reflects the same idea.
Sudha ma'am, I would like to even ask you, like, what are your views on multilingualism? That's the way of India. Like, I live in Maharashtra, and if I go across Maharashtra, I have seen that the language, the way we speak in Mumbai is quite different than we speak probably in Kolhapur. Like, the people that speak in Kolhapur, even if it's Marathi, but then still the dialect changes, the accent changes. So how do you deal with these things when you write about the characters in your books? How do you deal with such characters? How do you bring in these values in it?
Thank you. Who says actually India is a country? I read somewhere else, India is a continent. In a way, yes. If you look at Europe and you look at India, we are like them in a way. French is different than German, German is different than English, English is different than Dutch. But all together they make a Europe. Similarly in India, if you travel 50 kilometers, the same language accent changes. But I want to go one step further. If you travel 150 kilometers, food habits, dress sense, language, culture, all will change. It is there in every state. For example, I am from Karnataka. We have, the moment you cross the river, we have different dialect. It is there in Maharashtra. Vidarbha is different than this one. It's in Gujarat. Gujarat and Kutch are different. So, every state is always a special state. But there is an underline, or there is an undercurrent, or there is a thread. It is like a pearl, a string of pearl. I feel India is a string of pearl. Every pearl is different, but a string is beautiful necklace. You can't wear one pearl, but you can wear a necklace. India is a necklace of many pearls, and each pearl is different. And, you know, my father was in a government service. I want to tell something personal here. My father was in a government servant, and government service, he used to be transferred every 3 years. Whenever we used to get transferred, we all used to cry. Leave our friends, go, make new friends. My father used to tell me, Beta, is it not a great opportunity that you go to another state, you learn another language, you'll make a new set of friends, and life offers you later. But I'm offering you right now. And that helped me a lot in the later part of my life, that learning many language, many culture, helped me in my social work a lot extent. Like, I know what Maharashtrians think, because I spent many years in Maharashtra. How Gujaratis think, I know. I spent some years in Gujarat. So, which states I stayed, every state has added an additional richness to my life. Your way of thinking of that culture, your food, different food tasting, different way of actually in olden days, you know, in my generation, we used to do embroidery. We learned different embroidery in different states, and making different friends with a different temperament in every state. So I feel the culture may vary, but the underlying life of whole India is one, because it's the same Ramayana in different languages told. It is same Mahabharata told in different state. So the value system everywhere is more or less the same. The language may differ. The value system is same. That way I feel India is really connected at the bottom. Like a flower pot, you can see a lot of flowers, but at the bottom, they're all together tied one. This is the way I look at India. For the last 30, 40 years, I'm traveling a lot across the globe, and I found out there are many of the habits, many of the way of thinking are really common with many countries. Superficially, we may differ. They may eat different, they may dress different, but inside the love for fellow human beings, inside the love for art, literature, it's almost, I feel, similar. May not be the exact. Like when I come to Paris, I don't understand a single word of French. Not a single word, except merci, that is thank you. But I can identify. Because the base of love for culture, look at the morning sessions, how many people are queuing up. It reminded me of my books, sessions NBT in Delhi. So the love for the common cause, if you go and see around the world, most countries are similar. There are always exceptions, but by and large, love for fellow human beings, love to help someone. I have so much experience, going to Japan, how people have helped, and Turkey or Iran. Actually, very funny thing, I was in Iran, and being a vegetarian, I can't eat anything. I used to live on naan. On the roadside, they make naan. I asked, I can't understand Iranian language. I said, I want 4 naan. He gave, I said, money. He said, no. I said, why? He told me, Amitabh Bachchan. I said, that means, Bollywood is actually binding us. In Cuba, I go to buy something in the shop. She reduced half price. I was not able to. She said, Madhuri Dixit. So I said, the role of Bollywood is also combining in different states. I was in Germany, and I put the TV on, Mohabbatein in German, so Shah Rukh Khan is talking in German language. So diversity is you have to enjoy the diversity, but you should also understand the human values are same. That's what I feel.
Thank you. Mr. Daniel, come to you within a minute. But just that I wanted to ask Shastri ji, like ma'am was mentioning, that Bollywood has a lot of influence across the globe for India. And lately we have seen that Sanskrit shlokas have been getting inculcated in Bollywood songs, be it Bahubali movie or any other for that matter. And the way you listen to them, the vibrations that you feel, the positivity that you feel is something that is impeccable. And what are your views like? Is it getting that mass appeal these days? And even the youth today is accepting it that, yes, this is something that adds value to our nation.
Yes. Sanskrit is very much in our blood. So bringing out it again is just a matter of time. Moreover, because of the advent of yoga, Ayurveda, Vedanta, Bhagavad Gita, like so many Bharatiya Vidyas are being spread all over the world, and people who are initiated to these Bharatiya Vidyas want to learn the original texts in Sanskrit, and they are not satisfied with the translation and secondary sources. So Sanskrit is one of the fastest spreading language in the world today.
Fantastic. So Mr. Daniel, I just interacted with you a few minutes before, and I saw you speaking with someone in such fluent Telugu. And that was something like remarkable. Like even I, being an Indian, don't know that language, but then still you were so impressive. So do you feel that language is more about expression than just like a communication, but then it's more about expression? What do you feel?
सभा में सब लोगों को नमस्ते. Vedika per వాళ్ళందరికీ మీరందరికీ కూడా నా నమస్కారాలు. Donc, un grand bonjour à tout le monde. Aite, Abi, Matrubhasha, Bau Pramukhya hai, सब लोगों को आलोचन के लिए और भी सब ज्ञान के लिए इसलिए मैं इसलिए मैं फ्रेंची भाषा में भी कोई बात मैं बोलता हूँ अभी now the question is this gentleman Sastri Garu has been telling us about unity in diversity. He has been telling us much about the question of culture, Samskriti, but I do not agree completely with your perception. I am much more closer to what you could express yourself, in the sense that I think there are at least 3 different levels. One is Nagarikata, which means civilization. The second level to me is Samskriti. And of course, there is the question of Samajan, which means society, which is very much linked with the question of Matrubhasha, with the question of how does culture is being able to be expressed into the language. Then to try to answer your question, I would say that I believe that language, first of all, definitely is a mode of communication. And when I say I do, to some degree, slightly disagree with you, sir, is because I know that in various parts of India, people, I mean, ordinary people, common people, but not only common people, even very highly IPS or IAS officers at times, at least in the past, were not able to, were not interested to speak another language than their own in their regional area. Definitely there is a unity within India, and this is very much linked with the question of civilization. Whatever be the religion, whatever be the language, whatever be the geographical area you are living in, definitely India is one at all levels, to my mind and to my perception. Even to some extent, I have become Indian in that respect, to some extent. I am very, very much French, but still, I am Indian to दूसरे मातृभूमि है, दूसरे तेलुगु रेंडो मातृभाषा भी है, रेंडो मातृभाषा ఉంటుంది. Then, now I have just said a few words in that respect because what our dear lady Sudhamurti Garu has expressed is very much to be taken into account. And here, I will shift into French for just a second. Parce que un des problèmes les plus importants, I'll tell it in English afterwards. Un des problèmes les plus importants que je comprends en tant que Français, en tant que personne de culture et de langue française, c'est le fait qu'on a un grand déficit de connaissances réciproques et mutuelles entre l'Inde, par exemple, dans ses différentes dimensions, dans ses différentes langues, et éventuellement les pays européens, et particulièrement la France. Kliptanga, just very, very briefly, I will say what I just said presently in French. I do feel, as a Frenchman, as a person of French culture and language, that one of the important issues for us today, when we look at the friendship and the mutual understanding between Bharat Desh, between India and France, is that we would be more people able to understand the other people's language. Because, I'm sorry, what also makes me say those aspects of things is I have been, I have been very, very often invited in various Telugu cultural celebrations about language and literature. Languages which, through the constitution, is also understood as national languages, even though they are regionals, whether it is Kannada, Malayalam, Tamil, Gujarati, so many of them. And among them, Telugu. Now, just to completely exhaust my expression, I've been working about Telugu language for the last 30 or 40 years or so. When we look at how far this language, which is 12 centuries old in literature, is absolutely unknown to most of the people in the world, 98%, I think it is a loss, not for India itself, but for the world as well. And I will close here because I spoke too much already.
That's completely fine. We were so engrossed. Thank you. So, Sudha ma'am, like sir was mentioning, that language and culture has always been the foundation for a strong civilization. And I also feel that every nation's literature needs to build that strong foundation so that we have those values, and the new generation that comes in every country gets those values through our literature. So what are your views on it, and how do you try to inculcate them into your books?
Literature changes with time. You should remember. There are some literature, they are time immemorial. Like Kalidasa's Meghaduta or Shakuntala. That is called Amar, actually. That means never dying. But by and large, language also changes over a period of time. I'm studying Kannada 8th century onward, Kannada at 8th century, 10th century, 12th century. The script went on changing. So is the vocabulary. The vocabulary is the function of, mathematically if I have to tell, a vocabulary is function of time. For example, in Indian languages, particularly, I talk with Karnataka, our mother tongue Kannada, which is in Bangalore headquarters, but there we have almost 30% English is added. Not purposely. Day-to-day life, these words do come. So, the vocabulary of any language is function of time. And again, function of interacting time. Because we don't have French words in our English, in our Kannada, because we are not interacting with French people. We interacted historically with the British people. And that way, Britishers are much more open, because when you see their dictionary, every 100 years the dictionary or 50 years the dictionary have changed. So when your mind is open, and you are ready to accept the best thing, then your vocabulary changes. If you are rigid on your things, vocabulary does not change. This is a subjective opinion. Okay? Because you may lose the purity of the language. By that, you may lose the purity of language. But your understanding will be more with the other people. In the view of that, the literature also changes. 100 years back, literature like Rabindranath Tagore, Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, today that kind of a society does not exist. Society is again function of time and money. Two variables. One is time, other one is money. When money and time play an important role, society change. When society change, if you come in contact with a different language and culture, those things will be absorbed in your daily routine. And thus, literature changes from time to time. So I'm reducing this and deducing this mathematically how it happens. But values do not change. There are two things. Language may change, way of living may change. Values don't change. Because value is like a heart, like a brain. If the brain is dead, you are dead. Heart is dead, you are dead. So values are the same. Other things you may change, but the value remains the same in any culture. The most important thing in any change is your open-mindedness. And that's what Rigveda says, let all noble thoughts come from all directions. Our ancestors have told 5,000 years back, let all noble thoughts come from all directions. And if they are really good, from whatever source they come, it doesn't matter. I will accept it. And that is the, I believe personally, is a way of living. Let all good things come from anybody. I will accept and enrich my life, enrich my culture, enrich my society, enrich my country, enrich the literature, which is ever-flowing Ganga in life.
Very well said. And I mean, I write for Indian youth, and these days I have seen another language that has evolved, that is social media language. And like ma'am was mentioning, that language keeps on changing. And trust me, when I talk with these young kids, there are some words that even I don't understand, and I have to Google it again and again to understand that, yeah, this means this, that like there are words like ROFL, there are words like BRB, and so many things that keeps on coming up, and I don't understand like how do we deal with it. But then, Shastri ji, means like, do you think that in today's era, India, with its impeccable past of linguistic tradition, will act as a driving source for the literature around the globe?
Certainly. There are 7 needs for development of a language. 7 needs. First, speakers in that language. Second, using it as a medium of instruction, medium of communication, medium of administration, medium of entertainment, etc., etc. So second, using it as a medium. Third, contemporary content, contemporary literature. Fourth, continuous process of word generation or adaptation from other languages. Fifth, adaptation of the technology. Sixth, teaching learning material production and its teaching or learning activity. Seventh, corporate patronage or state patronage or societal patronage, altogether patronage. So if these 7 things are taken care or addressed to with regard to every language, that language is bound to develop, spread, to be promoted. So most of the languages who have patronage, support, naturally spread, or because of the societal demand, time to time, priorities also change. So with considering all these things, it depends of the development of a language.
Thank you so much. So we just have 5 more minutes. If you have any questions, then you can just ask, you can raise your hand and ask the questions. Because I have one and I'll ask it after you because we just have 5 minutes. Any questions?
Namaste. My name is Sampada. I am teaching Sanskrit here in Paris. And after whatever you have said about the need of the language having all these aspects which are important, like patronage and social acceptance and generating multimedia, perhaps tools for making it accessible, do you think it is possible for that to happen in case of Sanskrit, even today? I have high hopes, but I would like to hear from you. Thank you.
Yeah. There are a lot of things happening in the field of Sanskrit learning and Sanskrit propagation. Contemporary content is being created, so many books are being published. Translation is also, then NAP 2020 has made special emphasis for promotion of Sanskrit, its teaching. it has exclusively mentioned about Sanskrit knowledge systems and teaching Sanskrit through Sanskrit. Now all language universities in India, including Sanskrit universities, see, there are 7 languages have exclusive universities like Hindi University, Telugu University, Kannada University, Tamil University, etc. Whereas Sanskrit has 17 universities and there are several language institutions. Now, national education policy emphasizes, directs that all language institutions should become multidisciplinary. So, as part of that, Sanskrit is also, new tools are being developed. There is a new trend in Sanskrit education.
Thank you so much. And before ending this question, now that I have got an opportunity to share the stage with Sudha ma'am, that's my personal question. And you have been inspiration to so many people around. What has been your inspiration for so many years?
Poor people. My whole life is surrounded by poor people. When I look at poor people, my conscience reminds me that I have a duty towards them. I was not born rich. I was born in a middle-class family. My father was a doctor and a professor. My mother was a school teacher. My grandfather was a high school teacher. I was not married to a rich man. My husband was unemployed when I was married. Richness came sometime in the middle of the life. And I was always questioning myself. There are many people who are smarter than me. There are many people who are more intelligent than me. But why I became well off, or why God made me rich? When I started working, and it was always in my mind, is this money for my joy or for my spending? For what is the reason of this money? One day I started working with sex workers. It took 18 years for me to bring them, 3,000 of them, on the normal track. There is a book on that, 3,000 stitches. They gave me they threw me chappals, your footwear on me. Don't come into our colony, because they thought I may exploit them. Then they threw rotten tomatoes on me. I'll take another minute for this, because it's a social message. They said, you don't come. But it took many days for me to enter into their world, work with them, their helplessness, their exploitation. And I realized that I should work with them, even though it is very difficult. The success rate was single digit. I had an excellent assistant by the name Abhay. I have written there. So in 17 years, I could change 3,000 sex workers to a normal life. And that day, they came to there was a meeting like this, and our meetings are very easy. We don't give tea, coffee, anything. We'll give tea, coffee, but we don't spend too much money. They will bring their own lunch. 5,000 of them, 3,000 sex workers, 2,000 their children, 5,000 of them stood and listened to me. I'm an extempore speaker because I don't lie. And I don't remember what lie I did last time. So I rather tell truth and truth alone. And first time, in the midst of 5,000 people, I was not able to speak. I had only tears in my eyes. I remembered a very famous shloka from Mahabharata, which was taught to me when I was 8 years old. I never understood. Now, at 78 or 68, I was 68 at that time, I realized what it is. It says in Sanskrit, Natvaham kamaye rajyam, naswargam napunarbhavam, kamaye dukkhataptanam, praninam artinachanam. God, don't give me one more life. If at all you want to give me, don't give me any great beauty, money, kingdom, nothing. If at all you want to give something to me, God, give me the soft heart and strong hands so that I can wipe the tears of others. I told only this much, nothing else. On the contrary, the sex workers group, the leader came and said, Akka means sister. Sister has done so much to us in 18 years. She has given money to our children's education. They have become constables, school teachers, lawyers, engineers.
but we can't give anything to Akka. We threw saddles at her, we threw tomatoes at her, but today we want to give her a gift which is a quilt all of them made, and each one of them put one stitch in that, and there are 3,000 stitches in that quilt. They said, Akka, this will be warm in winter and it will be cool in summer. And that day on the stage, I realized how Bhagavan Buddha realized, a lighter way. I realized why I was born, why this money was given to me. The money was given to a cause, not to enjoy in 7-star hotel, not to go and be always in luxury. It is given for a cause to help poorest of the poor. For that reason, I'm born, and that is my main motivation, which keeps me young at heart, which makes me to work 18 hours a day, which makes me to go around India in the most difficult places if it is required. Thank you for patient hearing.
Thank you so much for being a wonderful audience. I would like to sum up this session, and being much, much younger than these delegates on the stage, I would like to end this session with an Indian tradition by touching their feet. Thank you so much.
May God bless you, God.
Thank you.
Jai Hind.
Yes, ready, please. 1, 2, start. 1 more, please.
वो की रहे वहाँ पे उसकी उससे बुक्स निकाल के उनको देनी है, मैम आई है कोई